Okay.
Did you just hit record?
Yeah, I did.
We're back.
We're live.
Fans.
Popular demand. Back by popular demand.
Honestly, we are. We're getting shout outs now from Fort Collins.
Yeah, it's remarkable how bored people have gotten.
Right. Well, what else are you gonna do up there? I think. Although I love Fort Collins, I shouldn't knock it.
It's a good brewery.
It is.
Town.
It's that, and some other things.
It's in fact they've actually lost a few breweries to too many breweries. A couple closed down up there.
Yeah.
But the
saturation of the market. Maybe that's a topic for another podcast.
I don't know if we can do saturation of the brewery market on a high school podcast.
They would listen.
That's the problem. Problem is they would listen.
Our fans would be all over.
Yeah, our fans would love it. There's a lot of podcasts we could make that would be really popular.
Right. I think we should go for popularity.
We can't do it here.
Well, we can until they get rid of us, but by that point, we'll be syndicated on some sort of national broadcast outfit. Speaking of, we have a sponsor.
We do.
Well, I'm going to make one and just let people know out of the goodness of our own hearts that we're both big fans of Yellowbird hot sauce. If you go to Whole Foods, which I'm sure many of our...
Tell them the Bruno Walsweer show sent you.
Yeah, you get 0% discount. But...
or they may think you're supposed to and just put one in.
It's true. They may not know. But I will say this is the best hot sauce I've ever had in my entire life.
Stuff.
It's got the heat. It's got flavor. It's a big bottle with a cute little bird looking at you.
Yeah, and the Serrano. Yeah. I don't know if you like. You know where Serrano peppers are unreal? In tuna, with celery and onions. You chop up Serrano peppers.
I can get behind that. But I'm more of a. I like high heat. So yeah, but that habanero.
The raw Serrano pepper's hot.
I'm still sweating from the habanero I had right before this podcast.
Little bird, and when your lips are chapped,
it's like mine, oh yeah. But the taste is exceptional. You guys will thank us. Now, you can't be afraid of a little. If Tabasco hurts, do not approach this.
And you hold a stick of butter next to you. That's what I have to do when my lips are chapped. So if I get a big blob,
have to do that.
Yeah, but mine are chapped.
Well, maybe you should use some chapstick like I do.
I don't have that burly man. You can't even see your lips.
That's true. They are hidden behind all of this.
Masculine hair.
I was going to say masculinity.
This masculine hair. So we're waiting on Mr. Saulino. This is going to be and I'm sure he'll stand us up, but he's retiring, and we actually have a guest, which is the reason we kind of brought this back. We're both looking out the door to make sure he hasn't.
And we're going to try to come back again once before the end of the year. I'd have to say we would have been here for you guys and girls had Walsweer not become a lacrosse coach of
that's a
second graders.
That's a hard. Well, technically they're third graders.
Okay, well
But Marco plays up.
Of course,
he's a big boy.
He is a big boy.
He's just like his dad, big and ripped. But we will give you something. We'll do like a swimsuit edition for the summer. What are the new male fashions?
What are the trends?
We talked today about stepping our denim game up.
Yeah, there's a couple kids around these parts that have great denim.
Oh, they do.
Now, I have that rider's jacket, which you made fun of, but
it's good stuff.
Mike McKibben certified Berkeley Supply. There's another shout out for those of you who are looking for raw salvage denim.
Yeah,
go visit a former Regis Jesuit grad who
works there.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
The jeans will only cost you $275 a pair, and for the first month you will be absolutely miserable trying to break them in, as I have learned. But how cool I am now that I've gotten through the rough spot.
Seriously, dude. Once you get them broken in,
it is nice.
I'd probably pay a kid to do it for me.
I thought about that. There's got to be someone with similar dimensions. Like, here's just wear these.
Or just buy them from the kid.
Now, you can get them on eBay pretty broken in.
Really?
For about half the price. I've thought about this route.
That's a good call. Some super hipster that has moved on to another.
Right. They're like, oh, this brand, people know about it.
Done.
Yeah, we gotta move on.
So, what have you been doing since our last podcast? Anything interesting?
No.
Short answer.
Same old things, teach life.
Teach. Bartend?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm looking for a gig this summer. I'm thinking about going down a Declaration.
Putting the vibe out, putting your name out there.
Yeah. I'm one of those who doesn't need the job. So if someone needs a shift, they can have mine. But if they're gonna, you would assume most of those places are gonna get hammered in the summer, And then there's always the bike shop thing.
Well,
I don't know.
you know, you got to keep in mind though, we have that road trip that we're planning,
Yeah.
which we could podcast about because you know something will happen along the ways that we'll have to vent about.
So we're going to the Mrs. Walsweer and the little Chubbo are heading out to Santa Cruz by plane, but Daddy doesn't fly because Daddy has mountain bikes and surfboards. And I hate flying.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's get to the real part.
If it's not first or business class, I am not sitting with the proletariat. God, listening to people yap and take their shoes off and put their toes.
If only they invented speakers that you could put over your ears to drown all of that out.
I have the noise reduction.
Oh, they do have those.
But you know me, man. It's a smell thing.
Planes do smell.
Anything weird, I just start to get claustrophobic, and then it's plus airlines just blow. I mean, they are awful.
They are.
And you're like, it probably takes you as long by the time you get through security at DIA, and your plane's probably delayed 6 hours because there's a raindrop. And if you don't get bumped from your seat for another day, I mean, I can drive to Santa Cruz that quickly.
Yeah, all in the amount of time and it's you got your tunes on. Nobody would be there but me, ostensibly, causing some problems. Can you see? Is the bottom when I'm talking? Is there a little thing moving? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Didn't look like that.
And we could go the way I like doing it for my trip. I like to bring like the fly fishing equipment, the mountain bikes, the surfboard. You drive from here, you drive up to like Jackson Hole, chill there for as many days as we want. You check out a bunch of breweries and stuff, and we can actually just make our destinations like every destination.
Well, that's gonna
has mountain biking. And stuff like that, like
I'll just be trail running.
Portland, or I'll go anywhere, man. I think I'm pretty good going anywhere, and then it just has to end up in Santa Cruz.
After you drop me off with a former Regis legend, G-Show.
Yeah, a close friend of ours who is working for Cliff Bar Product. Shout out to Cliff Bar.
Yep.
Who
Another one of our
does do a good job sponsoring us.
Right, they do.
They're an actual sponsor where we actually get free stuff.
It's been a while since I've hit him up.
Yeah, no, I haven't either. He doesn't have a lot of access to.
Yeah, I think we may have gotten him in just a tad touch of trouble.
I think that too.
It's about what normally is shipped to Denver was shipped to Regis Jesuit High School.
I know, it was a little shady.
I think I had about a year's supply at one point.
It was the fact is, like I was distributing it to cyclists.
I was eating all of it.
Yeah, you were eating all of it, but I was distributing it. It actually paid dividends because I gave a lot of that stuff away, anticipating getting more, but then again, it doesn't cost that much to get the stuff. Right about now, I'm starting to think Charlie Saulino has blown us off.
Well, I don't think so. He is a man of his word. Now, does he know where to meet us? I could check my phone.
Take a look and see.
He's a smart man, and he does know that you and I would probably run our mouths in the opening.
Yeah. There's that War on Drugs album. That is such a good album.
It really is. Have you heard the new single? It's 11 minutes long.
It's awesome.
Solid. They're coming in October. We should go.
Yeah,
you know what else?
Stuff isn't that good, the new stuff? Father John Misty.
I get the comedy aspect. Yeah. Like, Randy Newman, is that who I'm thinking of? Like trying to do that, but I don't want to listen to that.
No.
I mean,
I do that in your live show.
Yeah. And then leave me alone in my car where I have to be like, oh, I get it. The music's not great, but your comedy is sort of punny.
Yeah.
Or you're talking about how life is sort of trivial in a tongue-in-cheek way. Yeah. I'm aware of that fact.
He's turned into like a Sarah Silverman who used to be so funny, and then they get political, and then they just start to suck.
Right. You can't.
And it's like, don't. You're not someone we look to for political advice, man. At least if you do it your whole life, and Father John Misty certainly has been political for a very long time, but this new one's just kind of.
I'm not.
Where do these kids discover like the Stray Cats, which is awesome?
Well, that could have been at a bar. It's probably Luca Abbott because he's gone through every phase that is not anything that someone near his age would do.
Yeah, he's like a 70-year-old at heart.
Right.
fair statement.
You know what we should do, because we're here in the Steel Center. We should put it in through Dawkins. It'll clearly be approved. We should get podcast equipment to plug into our phones to take with us so that we can, not that we would want to bypass Breedy, but if we could do a few over the summer on your porch casts with Punchy.
Yeah, we'd get the band together, do some rock and roll.
We could. If Jose comes through town or Martin, we could have guests.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine those two talking about
Our doctor
medicine?
husbands?
Yeah. That would not be...
Oh,
they would break every law of client.
And neither of them is intelligent enough to filter themselves.
No, they will.
Oh, who would ever hear this?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden...
1.7 million people.
It's like, hey, man, it's the same. It's like the O'Reilly factor without all the harassment.
That's true.
This is how big we've gotten. Although we do harass poor Brady a lot.
He looked a little flustered.
Yeah, that kid, man, he's a stud in terms of this department.
He really is.
Sorely missed. He's trained a couple people though.
Oh wait, do we have a new Charlie? No.
No email. He feasibly could have just left, and we've disappointed again as far as guests, and no one's going to believe we really had a guest.
It's true, but I typed up questions and everything. We put in a lot of effort on this one.
So getting back to the road, like what cities you've been to most of those cities?
Right.
I would love to go up to Bend.
Ben's. You know what? We should go to Bend if for nothing else. There's this coffee shop on the outside of town that has these things called sea rolls, and they're the greatest breakfast phenomenon that I have ever experienced.
Are they good for you?
No, but they've got cardamom and sea salt. And then it's kind of like a cinnamon roll, but it's not as sugary as like
that's sugar.
a cinnamon roll.
It makes me sick for the rest of the day.
Yeah, well, you're probably going to be a little sick. There's decent brewery scene there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a smaller, more laid-back Boulder without the extreme element.
Yeah.
Not that there's an extreme element in Boulder, although maybe there is.
Boulder is the least cool city on the planet now. I mean, I was up there the other day, and it is just...
Shout out Boulder.
It's so bad. It is so awful. Like it's a bunch of people who were late to the party. That's what Boulder is now.
Which is what Denver is turning into now.
It is, but it's the late to the party. It's this, the image of Boulder is now driving those people who weren't cool enough to move there when I did in '93.
When you were cool.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of
Chevelle, surfboards,
the Chevelle.
2 dogs.
But like Boulder I caught it on the tail end, like because I saw that city go from a really cool city to a city where these knobs who think they're Boulder, they're watching like the Ellen DeGeneres show or something, and there's a special on Boulder, and they think, that's what I am.
I would love to see the Boulder episode of Ellen.
Of Ellen DeGeneres. I'm just sorry, Ellen. I mean,
she makes me laugh.
I have no problem with her. It's just like the people typically who view the Oprahs and the Ellens are always late to every party. It's like the Housewives series. Have you seen those things?
I tend not to. I don't have cable. I haven't had cable for the last I don't know how many years.
Sad. It is so. It's the most depressing thing you'll ever see. The missus enjoys watching it she enjoys watching people like be miserable.
Hate watch?
She hate watches.
Yeah.
And she's one of those who it definitely makes her feel much better. And I'm in the same boat. We enjoy watching.
I can't do it.
It's tragic.
I don't know where I'm trying to think when I'm watching those shows. Like when I lived with Grant and he would watch The Bachelor. And that I may be wrong, but I feel like maybe it was like a finale or something, but I was stuck in that, room for it seemed like a 2-hour show. Dude. And everything about it was just miserable. The people, the editing, the background music, just like the horrible places they would go on these completely contrived dates. And they were, they took it very seriously. Like,
dude, one of them went to Regis.
Oh, God.
A kid that was on The Bachelor, I'm not going to name his name. He's a great kid. I used to play hockey with him. He's a great kid. And I'm like, how did you end up on The Bachelor? And it's just one of these things where, did you think you were going to find love?
No.
I mean, how chotch would you have to be to go on that show and be like, oh yeah, I'm ready to settle down.
I think the first one maybe people thought it would work.
The first one, you're right. Like, hey, I'm, we all get to that point where you're kind of tired of.
Kind of like the first ever Real World in New York, and MTV wasn't bad because nobody really knew what they were doing. But by the third one, it was, it was basically Jersey Shore before Jersey Shore.
It was pretty good. The first Real World.
Yeah, it was.
I was of age for the first Real World. That's how long ago.
I think I would have been. I was in high school, but
you were younger.
I was watching My So-Called Life followed by Real World. That was.
That's an awesome combo.
I remember being so excited that I had quit football so that I could get home in time for My So-Called Life.
You didn't transition at all with the quitting football. You didn't. It's not like you went to track.
I didn't skip a beat. I was going right back to life. No, running came later. I think I remember. We probably covered that topic before, but I think I remember my excuse was, I think I'm just gonna work out or something. That was my fallback. But really, it was MTV drama.
I did. I went through the same thing because there was a point where I remember 10th grade where I was just tired of sports and coaches, and I was like, all right, I'm quitting soccer. So I remember quitting, and like after a week of sitting around listening to tunes, smoking Marlboros.
Oh,
like back then, you're like, all right, this isn't
ripping heaters.
This isn't really for me.
No,
I'll go back. And
this could escalate quickly.
You're a goalie.
Yeah,
it's like, sure, come on back. We knew you'd be back.
Welcome back, Walsweer.
You needed like a Matt Harvey week.
Yeah, you do need a Harvey week.
That jerk.
I get it, man.
Yeah, but these are the things. But Charlie's not coming.
It's a possibility, but he's also someone who cares more about the kids than we do.
Oh, come on.
I do too, but he would actually stay. We'd be like, sorry, bro, got a podcast. We're very famous. Stop asking questions.
He also teaches a subject where you can help.
Yeah,
like it's
right.
not, what do I help
Well, did
with?
you read the story?
It's right there. It's right there in that paragraph where it talks about pragmatic sanction.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Right? Yeah, that's all I can ask you. Those two lines right there. So if you're, it's not like solving an algebraic or trigonometry equation. He's actually got a pretty hard job. Anyway.
This nonsense with all these symbols.
I think we kind of just ride it.
I'm shooting him an email, and then we're just gonna go. We're gonna go off in the weeds, which we do so well.
By the way, you shoot the email. Have you seen the trailer for Blade Runner 2049?
No,
dude.
Does it look good? Cause
it looks unbelievable.
Really, I was thinking this is gonna be miserable.
No.
Blade
Runner is like.
What do we call this?
For me. I mean, I love Blade Runner.
Tech Dawkins room.
For those of you who haven't seen the trailer, go check it out. Jared Leto plays the guy who's building the replicants, and he's a whole new kind of bizarre character. Harrison Ford makes an appearance.
Well, you've got to. Is it his same character?
Yeah, and the new character, who's played by easily our man crush,
the guy from Leftovers.
Gosling, man, is the new
Gos
Terminator. You sent that. I got that too. But it looks really good, and it's directed by that French guy, overseen by Ridley Scott, who did the screenplay.
Right. Okay.
He's been working on it for 30 years.
I feel okay about it.
Oh, do you remember when?
But I'm nervous. I mean, it's kind of like
I'm with you.
Every Star Wars that came out after Empire.
Yeah, and even.
Star Wars 1 was whiny, but then again, I was like in second grade sucking down popsicles with the chicken pox. That was my Star Wars experience.
Empire.
I watched it 10 times. Empire was dark.
I remember going to Star Wars 1 with my parents. That was like, but Star Wars 1 didn't do it for me. Empire did.
Yeah.
And every other one I thought, and that latest one, you liked it. I thought was awful.
I thought the first half was awesome because there were evil people in it, finally, and doing evil things. And then you got into a little bit of the sap.
Yeah, it's always got
But they all died in the end.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right?
Yeah, that part was cool, the dying in the end. But it was just, the whole thing was like, where's the character that I empathize with on any level? But then again, it is like a sci-fi. Yeah, how much but
Oh, not Charlie.
not Charlie.
We could interview Samba, it looks like. He just walked by.
Yeah. He's doing very well here.
He is.
He's transitioning very well.
Sweet kid.
Yeah, we got a ton of sweet kids here. Well, what do we do if Charlie doesn't show
I
up?
don't know. We were our kids, listeners, and plenty of adults, I'm sure. Our new thought was, if we don't do an interview every time, which clearly we failed again, every time it's just as good as the. We were going to pick an educational topic to sort of not really lecture, but discuss between our two cynical.
That would require some preparation.
We can. I mean, do we really need preparation with certain things? Like we could talk about a podcast called 1983, A Merman I Should Be. One of my favorite Hendrix last pieces of work.
Oh, Charlie. Charlie wants to reschedule.
Okay.
I'll text him right now.
All right. So this is not a farce. We actually did have him scheduled, and you are hearing live, or a couple days later, whenever Breedy puts it on.
Yeah. I'll reply. We are in. They don't need to hear this.
No. Well, maybe. It kind of brings them in the room. It feels like they're looking over your shoulder, reading your phone.
Yeah, I mean, he may want to reschedule, and then we can always erase this one too. Although
he's a smart man for not showing up because he knows that we will not actually stick to the script.
Well, you can kind of stick to the script with Charlie because the whole thing is just getting some insight. The dude has been here for so freaking long, and he's got to have 40 years because I have 20 years, so I think he's got to have at least 40 years, and he's done every single thing there is to do here.
Yeah. We shouldn't do the interview before we interview him, but I'm very curious, and so should you. I'd love to know what happens before he gets here. Because we talked about our backgrounds a little bit. And
he was a Regis guy.
Well, I don't know that.
Huh.
But he's got, and depending on how open he'll be, those stories of the early years of this building, of the what we would call the girls' division now, but and then the Pink Palace. Some of those stories that we have heard throughout the years are legendary.
Yeah.
And it would be great just to hear him talk about a few of those.
And just to kind of give us some insight. Dude is retiring. Makes me feel old. It's like a spring chicken when I got.
We're not getting any younger, Chris.
No, we're not. No, we're not, man. It's really awful when you're like looking at the wall and it's all the classic rock albums that you remember buying it at. Like for me, it was the Music Staff was this record store in my hometown, and I probably spent like 85% of my free time at this place. Look, because did you have albums when you were young?
My parents had vinyl. By the time it came around to me, it started out with cassette tapes.
Yeah.
Which primarily turned into Grateful Dead tapes, and then
right.
then CDs came out.
But I remember, I can tell you where I bought every album on this wall. I mean, most of them are at the Music Staff, but there was a place in New York City called Bleecker Bob's back in the day, and that's where you had to go to get like the metal and like there was a little punk too. I went through a little bit of a punk thing too, but more metal. I kind of went from classic to metal.
Still a big part of your repertoire.
But like the Police, dude, I mean, that was a band I followed. That Ghost in the Machine album, I remember the day I bought that. Remember this tour when they toured with like Black Uhuru at Brendan Byrne Arena in New York. Let's see what we got here. Simon Garfunkel's a little before my time. I remember seeing Dylan and the Dead. What was that? What were your? I think I was in middle school.
Dylan and the Dead tour-wise would have been what, 80s?
I want to say I was in like middle school.
Oh, here he comes.
Yeah, here he is.
But is he rescheduling?
Oh, we can ask him.
You can come in. Oh wait, maybe not.
Yeah, you can.
I had no clue where you were.
This is the studio,
You
buddy.
must not have told me this. So.
No, that's Brian.
All over. I'm in your offices.
Yeah, come on, sit down, buddy.
Man.
Unless you got to go somewhere, we can always.
Let me relax. No, I'm good.
We got a microphone set up.
We're
for
not
him.
lying, kids. He is here.
Yeah. Yeah. Our listeners are going to be shocked. That
They
we have a
are,
real
because
guest.
they thought we let them down for
'Cause
a
every
fifth
time
time.
we've had a podcast, we were supposed to have a guest and they canceled.
Well, in all fairness, we never asked anybody.
But no, I remember I had.
Oh, yeah, we had
Reed
Reed
to
was supposed to show.
cancel.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Oh,
Come on
you
in, buddy.
prepared? This is your seat over here, unless you want Walls to move over.
No, the old guy's got the comfy couches.
Are we actually live?
Yeah. Well, not live, but it's recorded and anything can be edited out. Believe me,
edited,
you're well aware of
Second, so I can-
you're well aware of our need for editing.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
That you are aware of that.
So
wanna-
welcome.
You want to get
Welcome,
that
Mr.
thing?
Saulino.
That should be it. If you just kind of lean forward like this and talk into it, you'll be good.
I will do that. Okay. Thank you.
Super easy, buddy.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Yeah, we're like professionals, so we'll guide you right through this. So we assumed you were helping students.
I actually was not. I was looking for the two of you, to be very honest.
Really?
with you.
Oh, we
I went up to
really
your
dropped the
office-
ball.
I went up
Oh.
to your office and I talked to a couple of your cohorts, and they said those two.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, everybody was like, we don't like them.
Yeah, those
No, they did not say that. They just said those two. And I said, okay. And
Yeah.
then I decided to text you.
Yeah, go check the local tattoo parlors. they might be there.
No, I wouldn't do that. I didn't know either of you had tattoos.
No, we don't really.
No, it's true. All a myth, really.
Let's get right into the. We were just talking about how we wanted to hear about pre-Regis.
Yeah, there's a lot we don't know. So, if you want to, wherever you feel comfortable jumping in.
Yeah. So I mean, let's go way back. I mean, so I grew up in what's called the Highlands now, but all of us who grew up there know it's really North Denver.
Right. Super
There
hip
were
now.
No Highlands whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you just kind of hung out. So I grew up near Mount Carmel, which is the parish that I still belong to. Went to Mount Carmel grade and high school. The only public school experience I had was kindergarten with Mrs. Glenn, and I remember her name because she taught all five of us. So she's been there. She was there for a while when I had her, and she continued to be there for a while.
And she's not still there.
As far as I know, I haven't been back. You visit places,
Still
but you
kicking.
don't always visit your kindergarten.
I was thinking about that the other day because I was thinking about Miss Wisner, like she was my second grade teacher. You had the biggest crush in the world, and I'm like, I wonder if she's still teaching. Like, 'cause she was like the sweetest, nicest person ever. And I'm 50. I'll be 51 in a week. And you're like, I wonder, she's not too old to be teaching technically. I wonder,
Yeah, but I'm a little older than you, and I think most of the teachers that I had throughout my career are no longer with us.
Yeah, that's the grim reality
The grim
Right.
reality, yeah.
of getting older.
And teaching.
Yeah, and teaching,
True,
yeah,
true.
because
One
that
day
takes
our
like 10 to
students-
15 off your
Yeah.
life.
Our students will say that about you, yes. So anyway, so I went to Mount Carmel for 12 years then, and then I went to Regis. They had me penned in
Pink
as
Pals.
going to the seminary, and
They just pen
Yeah.
you in.
didn't bother
Charlie,
to
this
ask
is,
me if I was going to go or not, and so
There we go.
So I did inform them that I wasn't going. It would have been to a Servite seminary, interestingly enough, which is the order of priests that run our parish.
So when the penning in process, is that just you were a really, because I know I would not have been penned in. It's not like
I was an altar server from 5th grade through freshman year in college. Wow. And that's where that penning in process began. I used to clean the rectory for the priests, because that's back when women were not allowed in that area. So they picked the nearest person they could find that would be willing to do the job for a very small amount of pay. And that's what I did.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's one of those stories that not a lot of people know, and now unfortunately a lot of
Yeah,
people
no,
will.
millions.
Yeah, we
Millions,
forgot to tell you it's kind of a big deal here.
So ended up going to Regis College, and notice I'm using the word college because that's what it was back then, was Regis College, and graduated from there in 1970. with a degree in math, and I'll say the next part of it quietly, physics.
Ooh.
Because I never really wanted to do anything with that beyond taking it in college. So on my license, it says capable of teaching both math and physics, but I've never taught a physics class in my life.
Do you still know physics?
I know how to spell the word, and that would be about what I know.
Because that just seems like something that would just go away.
Yeah, I kind of remember. I don't remember any of it, really.
Well, it's changed so much because now it involves, it always involved math, but now it involves calculus and just so much other, and I never wanted to do anything with it. So that's kind of what I did.
Oh, that's all right, though. So that, in your college degree, was physics and
math.
And math.
And then it was a 4-program degree. So I had math, physics, education, and psychology.
Oh, kindred spirits over here. If
exactly.
you
Look at that.
Yeah.
who knew?
Yeah. That's a Renaissance education.
It
Sure
is.
is.
Truly, yes. Going to Regis College back then. And it was single sex.
Oh, yeah.
And my senior year was the first year that they allowed girls to be on campus. Some went to the night school, but just to be on campus. And I think there were 7 girls my senior year that actually attended Regis College.
Wow.
Hi.
Yeah, so it was an interesting time. So I guess it kind of fit that I began teaching, or not began, but I taught at the boys' school for so long. So it was kind of the same thing.
Did you play any sports or?
High school, I ran track and I played basketball.
Okay.
And then in college, back in those days, they actually had JV teams. So I was on the JV team at Regis College for 2 years. My sophomore year, unfortunately, I decided to break my wrist trying to block a shot. And
If you're going to go
didn't
hard.
block the shot, but I fell on the concrete sideline of Regis College's floor and broke my wrist. So I did come back to play the last 2 games of the season, though. I battled through the injury.
Nice.
There
man.
you go.
And then track was interesting. I ran the mile, and I did the high jump and the broad jump, which is now called the long jump, of course, but did that back then. So that was
No
kind of
triple
interesting.
jump.
Didn't have that.
Oh.
Didn't have that then. It started the year after I left. So all those things were coming in, all the changes.
Do you remember your mile time PR?
That's one thing I probably never really wanted to memorize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
The PR would have been pretty slow.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Still, though,
yeah.
if you're running at the college level, I imagine it was impressive.
No, that was in high school. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay,
That was
okay.
high school. My fault.
Oh,
My
that's
fault. Yeah.
What was North Denver like in the 70s?
Well, it was very Italian.
Yeah.
And my grandma and grandpa moved there from Italy. So they came over and were on Ellis Island.
That's mine too.
Came over and moved into North Denver. Our church was an Italian church. And interestingly enough, that's where Mother Cabrini actually opened the school, the Mount Carmel Grade School.
Huh.
She was involved there. So, and that was kind of her home parish in town here before she got the orphanage going up in the mountains.
We did a retreat there this year.
Okay, good. And I've done it about 3 years in a row, but I didn't go. Oh, I did. We didn't have our full one this year. No.
No, we
didn't.
We
Oh, I
did a
didn't.
kid retreat there,
Yes, I know.
and it was cool.
Yes.
Oh, that's where senior retreat was.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
I love that place.
Yeah.
We got up real early in the morning, hiked the shrine.
Yes,
It was
exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of a famous person that was there, and my dad actually worked several different jobs, but the one thing he really enjoyed doing was running the pool hall.
Which
So
one?
He had,
Is
it was called the Sunset. It's no longer there.
the
The
sunset.
Sunset, just a great name for
Yeah.
the pool hall. And they had card games and they had pool, and I used to hang out all the time. It was only about a block, about 2 blocks from our house. So I would always hang out there. When I wasn't at church, I was hanging out there.
That's
Nice.
like 32nd, 30.
Actually, that would have been 35th and Navajo.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, because the church is on 36th and that was on 35th.
Right on.
Yeah. So to show you how that's changed now, that building has been gone for a long time, and now there are the new millennials moving in with their 4-story homes, the top one being the patio, etc.
Right.
So it was just very Italian. You knew everyone. The Carusos, who ended up going to Regis, were very good friends of mine growing up. We were just a few blocks away, so there's a Regis connection there. And gosh, what else?
That was
Italian.
Regis was close to you at that point, though.
It was fairly close to me.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. But then we moved, and we ended up being about less than a mile away from Regis. That's where our house was after we moved a couple of times.
Huh.
And when I went to the college, which is where the high school was, also same
Right.
campus, I took the bus there.
That's all right.
So my first connection with Regis was when I was working my work-study program and saw Dick Geritano and all the other coaches with the guys from Regis, and I thought that'd be a really cool place to teach. It just took me 15 years to get there because I decided the public school thing was the thing to do first. But yeah, North Denver was a great place. There was an Italian restaurant, it seemed like, on every corner.
Yeah.
You couldn't do anything wrong without your mom or dad knowing about it because all Italian ladies are your mom. And they had your phone number. And,
Interfering in your life.
Well, keeping an eye on your
Right.
life. I wouldn't use the word interfering. Dad and mom took care of that.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, no, that's same thing my mother had. It was Newark Catholic school, right next, attached to the church,
Right?
2 blocks from the house.
Yeah, that's... Well, and then the high school was 6 blocks from our house, so I walked there, and all my siblings went to Mount Carmel, but then it closed. It was very sudden. The high school closed 1 year after I graduated, and the grade school, probably about 7 years after I graduated.
Right on.
So that kind of ended our connection to the school there, and we all went our own ways.
So when did you come to start working here?
I came to start working in Regis in the fall of 81, 82. Would have been here a little earlier, but my brother was in school here, and we had a pact that I could not teach here as long as he was still going to school here. And I believed it. We're 15 years difference in age, but I held to that bargain. And when he was a senior, I applied, and I got the job that summer, and then I started the year after he graduated.
Nice. Where were you before that?
I was in the public school system, so I started off at Manual High School, taught there for 3.5 years, and then the forced busing came in, and I was moved to a middle school, taught at Rishel for 7 years. It's over in West Denver. They feed into West High School. And then the last semester, I got a coaching job at Montbello with Saeed Abdul Rahman, who was a coach then, a good man. And I was commuting from my house to Rishel and Rishel to Montbello. And it just was taking a toll. So that semester I was able to move to Montbello and stayed there the rest of that semester and then came to Regis the next year.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, some interesting schools that I've named there. They really are. And interestingly enough, the 2 high schools are not even around anymore.
No.
They changed the names of both of them. So
Right.
It's kind of interesting.
That's all going to Magnet.
It is.
Charter.
And the coach at the high school now in Montbello is Ronnie Bush, who I coached when I was at Montbello. And I missed the Montbello game this year, not realizing Ronnie was the coach. So next year, if we play them again, I will make sure that I will go to that game.
You still keep in contact? Or?
Not really, but he would know who Nate Nelson, another guy that coached there, he saw me one day when I went to a game, and it was just a huge hug, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I know who you are. So I hope that same thing would happen with Ronnie.
Yeah, that's all right. And then it all started here in 81.
It all started here in 81, and back then I was teaching algebra. I was coaching sophomore basketball, and that's all I was doing that first year. And then unfortunately, Tony Deutsch, who was a wonderful, wonderful person that I played against in high school, he passed away due to a viral infection. And I took over the baseball program for the freshmen. I took his job as the freshman coach, and he had tried to talk me into coaching soccer. And I didn't know how many ways to say no, and I finally won out. And so anyway, I did those 2 sports and was teaching algebra. Then computers weren't around then. There were a few, but not a lot. And so they gradually were coming in, and I eventually became the computer lab person. So I had the first, Denny Sims and I had the first Kenny Ramos type job.
Really?
Which was very
Basic.
strange compared to now. Yes.
Were you teaching the language, the basic?
We didn't teach basic. We taught Pascal.
Pascal.
Yeah, so we had moved up beyond basic, and we were doing Pascal.
I had to take that.
Yeah.
I took basic, Pascal, and Fortran.
Okay. And Fortran was just coming in. It wasn't quite there yet. And then in 1989 and 90, I became the academic assistant principal. Jim Knapp was the
Father Knapp.
academic,
Yeah.
and then he became the principal, and I applied. About 4 of us applied, and I still to this day remember one question he asked me was something about, why do you think you should be in this job? I said, because I'm the best person that's applied, and I expect you to hire me. And he did. So
good answer.
I'm sure that was the answer that took care of it. So.
Yeah.
He didn't
Pro
call you
tip.
bluff. I said the same thing, and they hired me, but it was a bluff.
I did not say that. We'll get into that because Charlie interviewed me.
I just figured I'll just say it.
Yeah.
Charlie meant it. I didn't remotely think that. I just was like,
I have a hard time believing that you did not think you were the best
you're
candidate
right,
for any
you're right,
job.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Delusional. but they'd believe it.
Yeah, so I worked with Jim for 4 years, and then of course after that first year we moved out here, so we were only together on that the old campus, the North Campus. Notice I said North again, not the Highlands campus, just for that 1 year, and then we came out here, and Jim was the principal for 3 more years, and I was the AP, and then Rick Sullivan was hired, and I was his AP for. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I always lose this part of it. For 11 and a half years, I think.
Wow.
No, that can't be right.
No.
7 and a half years.
Yeah.
I got it. 7 and a half years.
Yeah.
It was 11 and a half total.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, we decided to build the new boys division building, and Rick was put in charge of that. And Father came and asked me, Father Sidney, if I would be willing to be the principal for the rest of that year. So I was the AP and the principal for 1 semester. And no one was hired. So we went into next year, and I was going to be the principal again until they found someone. I found an assistant principal, by the way, Brett Weller. And
B. Wells.
B. Wells. And then everyone wasn't surfacing. Everybody thought we were going to have a bunch of people applying. They didn't, so I decided to apply, and I ended up becoming principal, full-time basis. So.
Oh, I remember those. Those are now you're into my era. I remember those days well. Some over there, and then coming over here. I'm sure you remember me too.
That's right. When I showed up,
Yeah,
That's right.
things
that
really
is.
got interesting then. What was the difference? Because we hear stories, and I've told some in the classroom to kids, but it seemed like there was a pretty rambunctious faculty and student body back in the '80s, and that there's some legendary stories.
Wow.
Culturally, what was the difference, if there
Well,
was one? Or
There was one. I mean, kids are kids.
right?
It was just a different time, though, and the Regis kids were a breed unto themselves. I mean, they really were. We had a first-year not English teacher, a first-year French teacher. I won't mention his name. The first name was Nick. And he was walking through the senior section on the old campus one day, and he looked very much like a freshman. And he was picked up by the seniors and put head first into the trash can.
That basically happened to me my first, not in the trash can, but I got put in my place verbally by a senior when I started teaching here.
But that would be the culture. And then this is one year before my time, maybe 2 years. There was a senior section there in the cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
And that senior section is where the seniors could sit and eat. And it was kind of secluded from the rest. But for some reason, they decided not to build the wall all the way up. I'm sure it had something to do with air conditioning and heating, whatever. So the seniors would occasionally lob food over the top of the wall.
as they're prone to do.
Yes.
Yes, as they would like to do today.
Yeah.
And the dean at that time was Ray Rosenbaugh. And he came in one weekend with his sledgehammer and knocked down the wall. just knocked it down now, left the pile of rubble there. So the next day, that Monday actually, when the president and the principal came in, they were shocked to see the wall gone, and Ray basically said, "We can't put up with this anymore."
Yeah.
And it was their worry about how they got the wall out of there. Now, I wasn't here for that piece of it. I don't know what words were said, but the wall then went to about a 2-foot wall because there was they needed to have a railing of some sort there. And that story is absolutely legendary. I mean, anyone that goes to school here and doesn't know that story has really missed on the culture.
Yeah.
I feel like if you and I make such an adjustment, you know what, we could make this classroom a double.
Yeah, nope.
That would be the end of our careers.
Yeah, there's a lot that would be the end of our careers.
Right.
That wasn't the end of
Yes.
my career back in
You
the
Very
wouldn't
true.
need a sledgehammer, though, because we don't have brick walls anymore
No,
in
no.
between. They're just, they're pretty easy to
You could
knock
just
down.
kind of lean on them.
Use a desk.
And Ray's kind of legendary, too. I'm getting more into faculty than the culture of the kids right now, but he taught biology. And he used to keep snakes. No big deal. I mean, snakes.
yeah.
Well, I'm saying no big deal. Snakes. He kept rattlesnakes
Why not?
in the
Seems-
aquarium. And the assistant principal at that time was Bob Austin, who was a wonderful man. And Bob was deathly afraid of snakes.
Logically.
Okay,
Right.
logically.
Especially the poisonous kind.
So, well, one day he was on the second story of the Pink Palace, which is what we affectionately called Main Hall there. And around the corner, a couple of hands appear with a tss on the end of it. And it was Ray, as we found out eventually, holding the snake around the corner. And Bob was scared to death. So finally Ray's laughing, and comes in. And Bob is up on the windowsill, ready to jump out of the second story of his office. It would not have been a pleasant fall. And that was Ray. I mean, that's Ray. And Ray,
No, I remember
Bob,
Ray.
Don't do this. That you don't know him as the dean, though.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
He was a counselor.
He was a counselor.
The man who scared the principal with snakes became a counselor.
Right.
True. And we didn't hire security for prom and senior pranks.
When you had Ray and his rattlesnakes.
No, we had Ray and his Akita. He had an Akita.
Of course he
And
did.
anytime the kids would drive up ready to do a prank, he'd roll down the window and the dog would bark. And they would take off because they knew that had to be Ray.
Yeah.
He'd sit there all night long. That's what he would do.
Oh, it's
He and the
brilliant.
dog
That's
did-
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, Ray was a very interesting man.
Yeah, no, I remember, Ray was here for a good, he only retired, about 10 years ago?
Yeah,
right?
about 10, yes. Yeah.
Not even, maybe 8, but he had mellowed considerably.
Considerably.
With
yes.
age.
Yeah, he had a different man. And then one other story about a faculty member, Bob Guptill, way before anyone's time here. He taught science, and he had a bowling ball hanging on a rope in the center of his room. So he taught freshmen, and I forget what the name of that class was, science something or other. And he would put the freshmen against the wall,
Oh, I love it already.
hold them against the wall, and would bring the bowling ball up to his nose and let go. So it would swing across the room, and of course, knowing the laws of physics as I do so well, it would come back not at the same arc as it did before, and it would miss the freshman by a matter of an inch or so.
Yeah.
And he had to hold the freshman, though, for fear that he somehow would try to move and would actually run into the bowling ball. So that was pretty legendary. My brother actually had that happen to him.
Really?
Yes.
He was
And,
one of the guinea pigs.
He was one of the, well, you were all a guinea pig,
Yeah.
actually. And so that's Bob Guptill. So those were some of the characters, if you will, the Bob Austins, the Ray Rosenbaums, the Bob Guptills that taught there. And, the kids, when I'm in college, I rode the bus to the college. And it's the same bus on the way home that the high school students took. Okay? So I'd get on the bus, and the bus driver hated the Regis kids. He, with a passion.
Because I'm sure they were so well behaved.
They were well behaved. And I'm just this college guy trying to go home. So one night they all get on the bus, and the fare was 50 cents back then. And they all put in their 50 cents in pennies.
Oh, yeah.
So they
One of those.
filled up the whole container, and he informs them that he's stopping at the police station on the way home to drop them off. Now, being the person I was, I said, I want off the next stop.
Yeah,
And
I wanted to do
anyway, I did get off the next stop. I don't know what happened, but so there's that culture. Gosh, I'm trying to think of the other great stories there. Senior pranks.
Oh,
There had to be.
Pick up the Volkswagen and bring it inside the gym door, and then put the center post back up, and the senior would come out, and his Volkswagen was in the building.
So it's a classic.
yeah.
Yeah, that is a classic.
You presided over. Were you principal when they when those poor saps painted the roof?
I was the assistant principal. That was our first year here.
Yes.
And their only mistake, though, does anyone know what their only mistake was?
I've heard it tell that someone's ID fell out of their pocket when
They
they fell.
dropped their wallet, one of them. And we don't know where the security guard was during this time. It wasn't Ray with the Akita,
Yeah.
obviously.
Right.
But the security
We didn't have
guard
security.
was somewhere. Oh, yes, we
We
hired
did?
them because we knew it was senior prank time.
Oh.
And he was probably sleeping in the parking lot. We only had the one building. It's
Yeah.
not like there was a lot
Yeah.
to cover. So he came around and he found the wallet.
Yeah.
And then we went from there. And
and they-
unfortunately, those young men did not graduate from Regis.
Because they did like $5,000 worth of damage.
You might want to put a 2 in front of that.
Really?
Yeah, it was close to $25,000 worth of damage to get it fixed, repainted, and whatever else they did.
Have you seen any good pranks by the kids in your tenure?
No, we've been able to put a pretty good curtail on that.
Yeah.
They know that that's really not what we're about, and that one sent a huge message when they were
Yeah.
no longer here, and that was a huge message.
Yeah, that's a pretty good message to send.
Yeah,
In
it
that they can get out of control, i.e., you don't understand the cost of.
Right. Well, and then the other part to it, though, is if you think about this for a second, yeah, the cost is a lot, but really the ultimate concern was they're up at 2 in the morning on a pitched roof. It's dark outside, being held up by some contraption that they formulated. Okay.
Yeah, that's never a recipe
Yeah,
for
that's
success
never a
right there.
recipe.
And not engineering majors.
No.
No. And then, of
It's
course,
not
They
like-
missed the pendulum
Yeah.
of the bowling ball.
Yeah.
and they used the wrong kind of paint. They
Yeah.
did the paint that wouldn't come off, which
Oh.
is really what did it. So, but we lived with that for quite a while because even though we had it fixed, it still, when it rained just
could
right,
see those
it's
numbers.
Still, you could see those numbers. You know, class of 1981. I mean,
Yeah.
not 1981. It would be 1990.
91.
91. The how many years? Just going off topic a little. How many years have you had those Nuggets tickets?
I started buying the Nuggets tickets the year I graduated from college, which was the 1970-71 season.
Man, so that's ABA.
That's ABA.
Okay,
Yes. So
and that's the old Denver Coliseum.
We're talking David Thompson and Dan Issel and Dr. J. Doug Moe was a player,
Wow.
and he was a thug, and they
Yeah.
would send him on the floor to get the best player on the other team in an argument, hopefully a fight, so they both could be thrown out. Doug didn't matter that he was gone, but it did matter that the best
Yeah.
player was gone.
And what's the absolute best team you've seen?
Oh, man. I have some best players, but I think about best team. I guess it would be the last ABA year when we went to the finals and lost. We were just horrible in the finals. But that was a fun group. And
Who was that?
yeah, now see, I knew you were going to ask me that. So I'm going to remember some bizarre names like Fatty Taylor
Yep.
and Brian Taylor. They were both on the team.
Okay.
And then that had to be David Thompson. That would have been his, well, obviously it was all their last ABA years. The Jones brothers, they weren't brothers, the Jones boys. So we had, why have I forgotten their first names? It must have been
Well,
a
it
long
was the
time ago.
70s.
It was the 70s. Is that why? Oh,
yeah,
okay,
it's
sorry.
been a little
Okay.
while.
Larry Jones, who had a record of the most consecutive 30-point games during that season, but I'm going to forget what the record was now. But we used to go down just to watch him play to get his 30 points. And it was a big thing to do.
Yeah.
We would go down there. And Trapper, you guys have to remember, he used to do the games on TV, played for Portland. Jones. Anyway, he was on that team. So it was a good group, but they fell apart in the playoffs. I mean, it was time to go on to the NBA.
Best players?
Yeah, I was about to ask.
Best players that I've seen. I mean, David Thompson. I mean, he's got to be right up there.
Yeah, that's.
The one that I remember as the first greatest player, though, is when Spencer Haywood came here. He just turned this place around. It was Coliseum, would seat about 7,000 people.
Who?
We used to go in line during the playoffs. I would get there about 6 a.m. in the morning to get playoff tickets. I had class at 8. My aunt and my mom would come down. One would drive me to college. The other one would stay in line. I'd go to class. It was over at 9:45-ish. One of them would pick me up, bring me back down. They'd leave, and I'd stay in line until the ticket office opened at 11. And then we'd buy tickets to go watch Spencer Haywood play.
Oh, man.
So it was fun. Dan Issel, I'm a huge Dan Issel fan. I've always loved his game. Kiki Vandeweghe,
Yep.
Alex English. And then, unfortunately, I get into that mode now of I like to find those great players that we have now. And, I know you and I have had a discussion about Carmelo all the time and how you wanted him to be traded for Chris Paul.
Yeah.
And we had some good, friendly discussions
Sure.
about that. And I always won.
Yeah.
But,
That's why you see him as friendly.
yeah, exactly. But I enjoyed watching him play, and I look back on that, and it could be a lot of things that a lot of times because we didn't have better players.
Yeah.
He was and if you didn't watch him, you're watching people play that just
Spackle.
aren't really that good. And I know if I don't say Jokic, everyone will say, "Oh, what about the new guy?" Yeah, the jury's still out.
Yeah, I'm with you.
We'll see where that jury is. I think the best player they had might actually be playing in Portland
Yep.
now. And
Nurkic.
that really disappoints me.
Yeah.
But
we got Plumlee.
we do. We
He's
do.
terrible.
He may not sign.
That name doesn't help.
It's one of the worst trades in the history of the NBA.
And most analysts would totally agree with you.
When that happened, just Plumlee? Like, I mean, I thought we were going to get something solid.
And we lost
Like
the
a
first
Lou
round
Williams.
draft. And we
Yeah.
lost the first round draft choice.
Yeah,
So
it was straight out of the Chicago Bears NFL draft this year.
yes,
Like,
that would match.
We just paid to get hosed.
Could be the Dallas trade to the Vikings that
Yeah.
year too. That could be another one that's ranked right up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Best Regis team to watch in your tenure.
Oh, that's unfair because I was going to go back 3 years before my tenure. I know. I heard what you said. Okay, but you used to love those teams before then.
You can give a shout out.
I used to go watch them all the time. I didn't miss a Regis game in many, many, many years. I'm going to have to say it was probably our first state championship team because it had so much attached to it.
Yeah.
It had, it's that first year that we won that part of the state tournament. It wasn't the parochial league championship. It was the championship for the state of Colorado. And that was what really cool. That ride that we had that year, watching that game.
The
was
Bud
just,
Thomas, Hail Mary.
the whole atmosphere. And, and the kids are what really makes it. And I don't just mean the players. It's just when you see our kids and our alumni and our parents, everyone's so involved with that. Is just really cool.
I've always believed that year could be a 30 for 30 on ESPN.
Yes, I would agree.
Because you have the R.J. Demps factor.
Right.
Bud Thomas was just unbelievable.
Phenomenal, absolutely.
I mean, the stuff he was able to do. And it wasn't it Coach Shaw's first year?
It was his second year.
Second year, you're right. We went to the quarterfinals his first year.
Right.
And second year, and everybody had these expectations, and that East game was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. You're right. But then let's take a little bit further into that. The next 2 years we win.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was with some different players, but we still somehow managed to keep. And Bud Thomas is there the whole time, but we managed to keep things going, and it was just unbelievable. I mean, those 3 years have to be the best Regis basketball that I've seen in my tenure here.
No, I'm with
really
you.
Enjoyed.
And all sports. I'll be honest, like all sports. I love all the Regis sports equally. But that, in terms of getting, look, there's those big three kind of get the student body pumped up, and hoops when you're in that final and that semifinal where we had to win in overtime.
Yeah.
And there were so many weird things. Or that wasn't the semi. Oh no, that was the second year where we were.
It was the second year where we
we had to. Oh, it's just nuts, man! It was crazy.
Well, Father Houlihan told me many years ago, and so talking about all the sports here, it's the way the football team starts the year is how the year is going to go. I just remember him saying that, and this is a long time ago. One of my first years as an administrator when he was still president, and I've always believed that. I'm not because Ralph Houlihan said that, but just because it made a lot of sense. And there's been years when the football team hasn't started off well, and we've just seemed like we had a bad year. So you have to blame it or make it the big thing when it happens.
Oh, we had some rough football.
We did. But that was also a comical spell in a sense of them in the classroom.
Yeah,
because there was a lot of
that
angst amongst that team.
That was an interesting period.
It was.
That was. But we did shake that off. That's also the period where it might not be a coincidence that our weight room was a couple Nautilus machines.
True.
Right.
And in a storage closet.
Time had caught up to Regis Jesuit football, and we needed a little jump start.
Those weights, I hear, are great for football. I've heard that. And with basketball, I've heard year-round practice at 6 a.m. is also helps.
Well, and there's a cultural switch there too, though. If you go back to the old campus, I mean, the football program used to work out in the summer. Dick Giarratano was the coach, but they were the only sport that you really saw them doing anything outside of the normal season. And that was the philosophy, though. That was what Guy Gibbs and Tom Robinson believed in, and the baseball coaches. It's just what you did. And now that has changed so much that how often do we have a three-sport athlete anymore?
Super rare.
It's super rare. And usually he's a fantastic kid, fantastic player, and we have a lot of fantastic kids and players, but they are so focused on their sport now. So that's a huge cultural change.
Right.
But that's everywhere. That's not just at Regis.
No, for sure.
That's everywhere.
Go ahead.
Yeah, how do you feel? I mean, there's days where I kind of miss the opportunity for the kid to have a little bit more time.
I don't like it. I got to tell you a story. This is about my brother. I don't mean to bring him in here so much, but so he's walking down the hall as a freshman, was going to play football, but he broke his arm that summer, shoulder, whatever it was, playing baseball. So he walks past Guy Gibbs and Tom Robinson, and they both say, "Saulino, how's cross country going?" And he looked at them and said, "I'll be out tonight." So they were basically saying, if you're going to play basketball here, you need to do more than play basketball. So he joined cross country, ran that for 3 years, played basketball, and played baseball. And that was the expectation, that during the off season you'd play another sport to stay in shape. You do the best you could, and whatever sport that was, it didn't really matter.
Right.
And now, summer baseball starts tomorrow. Well, we just had the state finals today, and it's baseball. We have arm injuries, we have Tommy John, we have all kinds of stuff. We don't have kids able to use different muscles. And I don't pretend to be a doctor here, but I've heard that's a big issue. And
seems
I
like
think it is.
a very...
They are starting to push. You are starting to see, because I have my little man's lacrosse team, and they are, when you go to a DU game, the announcers are like, "Hey kids, play a couple sports." And it's an injury thing. You use different muscles, give some muscles a break, but I came from the 3-sport background and
excelled at all three. Don't hold back.
I'm being modest here, but the reality of it is that was
5-sport.
That was a great experience.
It was, and you also had probably a different group of kids.
Yeah.
That you were playing with and against, and I didn't come from the 3-sport mainly because I could do 2, and that was about where I needed to be. But it was fun. I mean, it was just a thing to do.
I remember those years, and granted, these weren't our state championship years, but waiting for the football season to end and watching, the first few basketball games, and then the football players show up, and suddenly we have some enforcers out
0-4 and no one's worried.
Yeah, no, don't worry, the
we'll be
team's coming.
The coach isn't even showing up to these games.
Yeah,
No.
This is where the
Practices
assistant
are very short.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, it'll change on Monday. But,
it was astounding. Like you just went from one to the other, and there was a little overlap, and you would try and make some of the practices. By the time I was, you would try and get to the hockey in the middle of November, but it was soccer, and then it was hockey, and there was tennis. I don't like saying that. And then senior year a little lax because I didn't want to play tennis anymore, and so but it was always something, and it was it was like, hey, what are you guys doing this spring?
Right.
I think you're right. I think that there's we lose that, and I hope the trend is going to go once the physiology comes around.
Right. And then the other part to it that frustrates me a little bit is when a kid is full time, he seems to have to cut other things out of his schedule.
Right.
He can't join the club. He can't do what we're doing right now. He can't do those things, and that's certainly not good. But again, that'll all come around. If you're in education long enough, and I've been in it long enough, everything comes around. It all does, and it'll come out with a different name, but it's been there before.
What are you going to do for retiring?
Well,
Fish?
I had to get up and give a little talk the other night at Lark, and the same question was asked of me. And I don't really know. I'll talk about a couple things in a minute here, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to learn how to change that alarm clock from 4:25 a.m. to something other than that.
Let's go for
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay?
Your body is used to it now, though, right?
It is,
Yeah.
and but we'll somehow find a way to make it get unused.
Is
to
that a
real
weekend
quickly.
time for you too?
No, it's usually an hour later.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh, spoiling
Yeah,
yourself.
it is. Yes, it's an hour later.
Oh.
It's at 5:30.
What's your goal? Like 6?
I don't know. So let me answer that by telling you what I think I'm going to do. So I want to go to Mass every day. That's a big thing that I want to do. I want to be able to do that. And so it depends what church I go to. I'm also going to change different churches every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, just to get a little flavor for what the town's about.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay?
That's
Get
unreal.
Out there. Get out there. And so 1 week I might be able to sleep till 6:30. Another week it might be 9 o'clock Mass, so I can sleep until 8 o'clock. All right, so that's one thing. I'm also looking at a couple volunteer opportunities. When my mom got real sick, she was put in a hospice, and I've always had I don't know, just something inside of me that said, you know what, you need to go back there and do something there. So that's going to be the first place that I visit and see what they have to offer. I'm not saying I'm definitely going to do that, or they definitely would want me. I don't know that. But I'm going to look into that, and I think it'll be a really good thing to do because I'll be giving back in a way that I think my mom would be very happy with and my dad would be very happy with. It's kind of for them that I would be doing that.
Oh yeah, that's
amazing.
That's fail proof.
Right.
I mean, how do you? And from a self-worth, I mean, I think the same thing, and like I feel so guilty now. Like, hey, give more, and it's like, when I get a little older, I feel you. The church every day. I don't know if I'm there, but
you might be surprised. You never know. It's just something that I really feel strongly about now, and I guess maybe it's that being penciled in as being the priest. Maybe that's coming out now. But I don't plan on going to the seminary, so don't look for me to be.
I was about to say maybe it's not too late to pull that.
I knew you were thinking that, so that's why I jumped right in there.
It's a heck of a retirement plan, John.
Sure is.
And then at one point I was going to think about volunteering to teach at some of the grade schools in my area. But I'm backing off on that one a little bit. I keep hearing about all the things in the public schools now and the testing and all that's going on. So I might back away from that, might look at a Catholic school, but those are the things I'm looking at. And then I want to go to D.C. That's a big goal of mine. I've been there once, but I was there for a conference, and we all know how that goes.
Right.
So you get to, you say, oh, there's the Lincoln Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's, and that's all you get to do is say, there it is.
Right.
So I want to go there, and that'll be a really nice trip. I think I've talked my brother and or sister into going with me, so that'll be kind of cool to get us to do that.
I'm sure you know not to go in July or August.
I do know that.
Okay,
yes,
good,
yes,
because
yeah,
that will be a very different trip of
yeah.
sweating
No,
and
no,
being
no.
miserable.
Oh.
No, I've learned that.
Oh.
And then to go to the other end of that, I want to take a trip down the border between Canada and the United States on the train. And I think it will just be the coolest thing ever.
That would be.
I really want to do that. And we'll see who I can talk into going with me on that, because that'll be a several-day trek and getting off at certain cities along the way. And so I won't be fishing, though.
No.
Okay?
They don't let you shoot buffalo, FYI, anymore
yeah,
from the trains.
because there aren't any there.
Yeah, they
That's
don't
probably
let.
why.
Yep.
So
They're making a comeback.
they are. They actually are.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
So which train is that? The border? There's a train that
Well,
runs.
it's not quite on the border exactly. I mean, that might be knocked away with whatever border stuff we're going to put up there anyway. But it's just a train that goes. It's on the Canada side, and it runs from one side of it to the other, and it stops off at all the cities along the way.
Oh,
So,
that'd be unreal.
and I think that I'm pretty sure I have this right. But you remember Judith Hickson? Don't.
No.
Okay, she taught French. And she took this trip, and she got me fired up.
Really?
She taught French, and she was also, what else did she do? She moderated a fencing club.
Yeah, that's before my time.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I didn't realize she'd been gone quite that long, but obviously she has been. So,
Yeah.
Well,
Any Europe?
I'm not saying this to be negative. As my parents would say, didn't leave anything there, have no reason to go pick it up. And no, that's never been on my wish list at all. I really, going to Canada will be my foreign excursion.
Yeah, and I've been over there a couple times, and I'll tell you, I'm with you. We were just talking about this summer. We're going to probably do going north, Idaho, Montana, much more appealing to me.
Yeah.
There's an open invite to be a third wheel with Walls and I on a trip. Just exploring wherever we want to go. It's similar to the Canada trip, only his truck.
Okay.
And we've got church every day.
If we need to, we can find
We'll
one.
go past one every day. So you promised me that.
When I was a kid, my grandmother in the summers would, because I lived with my grandparents on the Jersey Shore during the summer, and we would do church every day. But my grandfather, being a good grandfather, would take 30 minutes to park the car after he dropped my grandmother off.
Just in time to pick you up.
Just in time to smoke one Winston.
Okay.
And just in time, no, we would be with him, and then we'd go back.
Oh, gotcha.
Then the Eucharist would be served, and then we'd be right out. So I really don't get credit for all of those.
I see.
But the heart, I was there. I was on board. I didn't complain.
Every day at my Catholic grade school, that's how we started the day.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a good way to start it.
We're older, man. Like back in the day, church was it. We grew up in a church era, where the generation before us and before them, you were there.
Oh yeah.
Every day was not uncommon.
No, it really wasn't. But when I was a server, Mount Carmel used to have masses this is on Sunday now, at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
Whoa.
12, and 7 at night.
Oh, it's unreal.
And it would not be uncommon for me to serve every one of those. That's the penning in piece again.
Yeah,
okay, that's why they had this all figured out.
Whew.
So
That one's a lock.
Yeah, it was.
This guy's a lock.
Yeah.
A lot of Italians.
He already knows it all. He could do the job if we needed him to.
There's some. I'll give you this in terms of your plan of going to church every day. There is something about that morning 7 a.m. that is really cool.
It is.
It doesn't have. I can't stand the singing and stuff and the guitars.
It doesn't have any of that.
It doesn't have any of that. It's just, and I used to go to them here too for a while. It's just they're very relaxing, very therapeutic.
See, there's another open invitation. I'll go my end 7:15 every Friday.
You're doing
up in our chapel.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yes, and I make the morning announcement, but you have to be here to hear that morning announcement. as I'm sure you hear. 'Cause
I'm
you're
here.
always
I get here about 7:30
Okay, all right.
because I have the little man goes to Most Precious Blood.
Oh, okay.
Wait, wasn't last Friday's the last of
The
the?
last first Friday.
Oh, what's
The first Friday is the first Friday of the month, but on every other Friday we have a mass in our chapel.
Oh, okay.
And we have one of the Jesuits, obviously, who says that. And there's about anywhere from 10 to 15 of us that attend. Okay. Yeah,
Good
so
deal.
Yeah, back in the day it was Tom. Does Tom Whitman come back for them?
he comes back for the first Friday masses. Yes.
He was loyal to
He
those.
and Odin. Oh, he's the one that started them. He's the one that got them off the ground. And then John Odenheimer comes back all the time.
Okay.
And there's a choir there, and I know you don't like the choir, but it's kind of cool. The entire swimming team was there last Friday, and that was kind of cool. And the football team has to go during the football season,
There you go.
so it's pretty cool.
Right on. Any other good retirement stuff?
No, I have 8 great nephews and great nieces, all 7 and younger. Okay, and I don't feel like I've been a part of their lives enough. One thing about being a teacher, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And me being single all these years, family was always secondary. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, my family is very important to me. But if you didn't have to go home to your kids or your wife, you were able to do different things.
Right.
And those were always basketball, football, baseball, whatever sport was here, and activities. So I just see myself being more involved with them, whether that's picking them up from school or going to their games or doing whatever. That'll be kind of a fun thing. I've been informed by my nieces that their 3 boys, between the 2 of them, will be going here, and that I will be driving.
Oh.
So I did the math for them the other day. Okay.
Well, that's what you do.
Yeah, exactly. And the oldest one is 6. So I added 8 to him, saying he'll be 14 when he goes here. And I added 8 to my age, and I said I will gladly escort them on light rail.
Yeah.
But I will not be driving them from where I live to here.
I'm not going to be that guy who drives.
No, I'm not going to do that. So, I mean, you take all those things I talked to you about, and those are all going to fill up a good portion of my
absolutely.
time. They really are. And, that and the rest is going to fall into place. Yeah. People who ask you about retirement and what you're going to do are probably more worried about it than you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Well, because I'm thinking about my retirement every day. Mm-hmm. And I don't know when that's going to come, but when it does, I
once this podcast takes off, it'll
it
be like retired. We'll still be talking, but
well, just so there's some money that can come my way too. I mean, that would be very nice if I could be a weekly guest.
That would be a great idea.
Really good.
Yeah.
You could give us the nug. You could do all the Denver sports. Yeah. You know more than we do.
He becomes a sportscast.
Yeah.
And can I pop the Nuggets bubble for a second?
Yeah.
I'm retiring this year, right?
Yeah.
Right.
School. I'm also retiring from Nuggets.
Yeah.
Are you really?
I am. I actually have given them up, so I won't be going this next year. We don't have season tickets anymore.
So your brother's giving them up too?
Yes. Well, we had them together.
Yeah. Rockies or Broncos?
Oh, Broncos. I've had those longer than
Nuggets.
Yeah. I would. Those aren't going.
Okay.
What are you have really good Bronco seats, don't you?
I do. I sit about the 40-yard line, roughly 39, on the west side in the club level.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they're very nice.
That's good stuff.
I don't get wet.
Yeah.
That's the key thing there with the Broncos.
Yeah. And how about the Rockies? You no.
No. I go to the Rockies games on occasion, and then I go to the Avs on occasion, but I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to watch the Rockies, but I don't love to watch them in person.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is.
I can't get over the 1:00 games. I can't.
Well, I mean, they played today, and imagine what the weather was like today. So they beat the Cubs, by the way, 10-4.
Nice.
Gotta keep watching the Cubs fall down. They've had their moment in the sun. Now stop.
All those bandwagon Cubs fans.
Definitely falling down.
Yeah.
Card's still doing great. First place right now.
Broncos tickets I've had since I was a senior in high school.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, we don't have to ask about the best games. Well, do you have a favorite? Do you have a game?
Oh, my gosh.
It's probably hard to pick one.
Well, it is, but I would really have to say, going back to 77, when they beat the Raiders in the playoff, the AFC playoff,
Craig Morton.
to go to the Super Bowl. Now, we didn't follow through with the win, but to beat Oakland, to watch the fans charge the field, to carry off the goalposts, which they literally tore apart. And then years later to hear that he really didn't cross the goal line.
Yeah.
He should not have won because he fumbled the ball.
Yeah.
But you know what? Didn't really matter.
Hey,
They
yeah.
didn't have replay
The
back then.
immaculate reception
exactly.
wasn't a reception.
Right.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
that's,
that's beside the point.
yeah, well, we can't start applying
No,
that.
no,
Yeah.
we
But that
cannot.
was that the Craig Morton? I think I
That's
remember.
Craig Moore, Eminem,
Yep.
Morton, and Moses.
And Vance, was it Johnson or
No,
Vance
not
Joseph?
Vance.
Oh, those are later. Those guys
yeah,
were
those are later. Yeah,
That was the Three Amigos.
yeah, that was
Elway.
Steve Watson was
Yeah.
on that team and
Yep.
all that crew. But yeah,
Yeah.
Elway was with Johnson and Joseph. And them.
Yeah, I remember those. I remember those years. Then there was no baseball prior to the '90s, except the Bears.
Well, I mean, come on now. Let's don't say there's no baseball. You're talking about a true Denver Bear fan
Yeah,
who used to
that's
go
fair.
to every game during the summer with his
Really?
grandfather.
Yeah.
We never would miss.
Really.
Never. No.
And where did they play?
At Bear Stadium, which is where Mile High Stadium was built. So
Huh.
that was originally the baseball field
Huh.
for the Bears, and they kept adding on to the stadium. And then eventually it became Mile High Stadium, and that's where of course, the Rockies
Yeah.
played their first
Yeah.
2 years. No, 1 year. I don't even remember now. That's terrible, but I don't.
I think it was.
I think it had to be 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like
I
two would
think
make
it
sense.
It was 2, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, so let's don't say there's no baseball, though, because there was baseball.
Yeah, I got you. I
mean,
got you.
You know, we had Ralph Terry come through here, Bobby Richardson, Tony Kubek, Johnny Blanchard.
Okay,
Those are
Blanchard.
just the Yankees that I know.
Yep.
Don't tell me you don't know Kubek and Richardson.
I'm not a Yankees guy.
Oh,
I
my
don't. I
God.
won't.
I've
even
heard the
watch-
names. I'm
Okay,
a little younger
thank
than
you.
But I
Walls.
won't
Okay.
even watch the American League, Charlie. I'm a
Okay.
diehard National League
Okay.
guy.
As am I for the
If-
most
if
part.
you start naming National League guys, I'm all over it. But-
Ellis Valentine.
yep.
All
the,
right.
And then
he played here.
okay.
Andre Dawson.
Dolphins.
Oh
Played
yeah,
here.
the Hawk.
Yeah.
Okay. Bobby Bonds.
Oh, come on.
All right.
But was a Yankee too.
Okay.
So I'll forgive him that. But I remember Bobby. Yeah,
Yeah.
those were my baseball card collecting years, and I would throw out American League cards.
Wow.
I would just throw them out.
Wow.
They'd
I
go
didn't
to the
discriminate
pack,
as
and I would
much.
throw them out.
Throw him out. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
My grandfather was hardcore in terms of the New York Giants and the New York Mets.
Okay.
The new Giants.
right. The new Giants.
So we didn't, and he later in life he allowed for but there was National League only. So
I respect it.
yeah, it
missed
was,
some good players. That's all I got to say.
I agree, but I did not miss the DH, which is
True.
blasphemy.
Well, true. But what are you going to do when the National League eventually goes to that?
No.
It
I
is
don't
fun
know.
to watch those pitchers. It does. I mean, the strategy that you have to employ when you have a hack who cannot hit a ball and how you organize your lineup.
Exactly.
Or when
Very
you put
different.
a guy like Baumgartner in batting fifth
Yeah.
right.
because he's
Right.
so good.
Right.
You know,
Even better.
That's beautiful to me. I just think
Or
that
even
is.
when he bats eighth, that's
Yeah.
still kind of interesting
Yeah.
too. I mean,
But they've brought him in to pinch hit.
pinch hit,
it's just-
exactly.
that's what the game is supposed to be. These guys knowing, because if you get rid of that DH, then in college these kids are going to bat more, and they're going to get used more, and they're going to learn how to hit because they know when they're young. You remember Ty Block.
Oh yeah, exactly.
He could hit, and he got 2 hits off of Kershaw.
Yeah, I know exactly.
But
So,
that breed of player is awesome.
yes.
I mean,
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I'm not. I've learned to live with the DH. Do I love it? No. Do I hate it? No.
Yeah.
It's just there. When you watch American
Mhm.
League, that's what happens.
yeah.
So
Well, I wouldn't know. Never seen the American League till the World Series. Oh, I watched the championship series.
good.
My kid's all over the Toronto, the Blue Jays.
Blue
or
Jays.
one of those teams. But he loves, for some reason, because he met Tulowitzki.
Oh, okay. Of course, he hasn't played much this year, so he can't enjoy them. very
No.
much. He's hurt again. So.
No, he did get to be an honorary shortstop while Walt was
Oh, really?
coach.
Oh,
so,
cool.
we got a lot of ties to this Rockies team.
We do.
Anyway, we got to get you home. I'd just like to say personally, You've been here since I've been here. Been a tremendous role model for me. I mean, tremendous role model for me. I can't even tell you, like, there are things you'll never know. And I'm a bit of an ass. I mean, I understand that, and I always have been. I've mellowed a bit. But I every time you ever had to reprimand me, I always had it coming. And you've been an incredible role model for me as a teacher. And, I pass that on. It's the love of Regis, man. I believe anybody that comes to teach here that has your love of this institution is going to succeed. And if you don't, you're going to fail.
Well, thank you. Those were way unexpected words, and I appreciate them very much so, because I know you don't lightly say stuff like that.
No, it's all meant.
But you're right.
First compliment he's ever given.
But you're right about the love, and that's the hard part about retiring. It's going to be the hard part and continues to be. But you know what? We'll get through it, and it's a new phase of my life, and I'm looking forward to it. But I will still be around. The kids have been bugging me about wanting me to come back and do the lunch line because they think I'm the only one that can control it. But it's more than that, But you have to have that love for the kids, the love for the institution, and you have to look past the other stuff. You have to look past the salary, all the things that we grovel about all the time. And my rule: before we hire you, you should have to teach in the public school for 1 year, and then after that, you can sign the contract.
Yeah,
I should have done that, but you couldn't wait to get me out here.
Yeah. That's probably his greatest accomplishment.
I lucked out because there was a blizzard, and I was supposed to fly out so they could, meet who I was, which senior Bruno in college would not have been the most impressive physical person to be in front of. So we had a phone interview, and I remember you saying, well, we've been snowed in. I think you guys had missed a week of school, and then lo and behold, I showed up. You remember you took me about a semester before I stopped calling you Mr. Saulino.
Yes, I had a long discussion with that. I had that discussion with our friend Paul Miller the other day too.
No kidding.
I did at Lark.
So everybody's got to learn.
Yeah, they do.
But that was a very that was an eye opening. I was like, okay. Charlie, am I in trouble? Did I just say the wrong thing? But I have to say the same thing for Chris. When I started out here, I was always looking up to the people who had been around and the way that they felt about the school. Obviously, you were my boss at that time, and it was something that I felt, and I wanted always to please that crew and to do the best thing that I could to be a part of it. As immature as I was, you were a man of few words sometimes, but you would say things to me in a very confident, Brian, you're doing a great job, or whatever it was. And I remember there was a couple of days where I'd be walking down the hallway and you would stop and just say something very short. And it meant the world because I felt like I was doing the right thing. Except for the time where you told me my appearance was a problem, was becoming a bit of a problem.
I had that talk.
Yeah, you also.
He had that talk.
And it was very, pragmatic. And, what you're wearing is a bad influence for the kids and no one else is doing it. And, I was like, and I will get a new wardrobe.
He banned me from responding to emails.
That is another topic altogether.
Yeah, well,
but it was the best thing for my career.
Yeah.
It was the best thing.
Yeah,
for my
you
career.
probably would not be here had the email ban not been.
No, it was great. It was the best thing for me. It made me a much better human being.
You had to think.
Thank you for that compliment too. But it's just, I always feel that when you have young teachers come in, it's our responsibility, as it is yours now, to make sure they understand what we're about and what we are here to do, and it's to educate those young men and young women. And we have to do that in every way we act. Everything we say can and will be taken out of context and broadcast somewhere, not on this podcast, but broadcast somewhere.
Right.
And it's really scary. That's part of the culture that I don't like anymore.
Right.
Is that you have to be careful with everything you do. Not that you ever said anything bad, but you just have to be careful with what you say, because who's going to construe it as being negative? So,
right.
Anyway, it's been a good ride.
Right on.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Charlie.
being here, and tune in later, kids. We'll have some more stuff before the end of the year.
Yeah, we'll get one more out. You know how to save it there, bro?
Not really.
You press stop and then can see.
I can't see it from my angle.
Okay.
So with your
So we're gonna go stop.